saying goes, everywhere you go, you can find a Nigerian. Today, we have assessed the Igbo community in Western Australia, one of the most far-flung places on earth. We are joined now all the way from Perth, Western Australia, by Dr. Charles Meribole, the chairman, Igbo Association of Western Australia. Thank you for joining us this morning and evening, your time, sir.
Yeah, and thank you for having me.
Good morning.
It's an honor to be here.
Good morning. It's a bigger honor to have you on, sir. Thank you.
Thanks.
So let's begin on a soft note. Can you tell us more about the Igbo Community Association in Western Australia? Tell us what it's all about.
Well, the Igbo Association of Western Australia is an association bringing all Igbos together in Western Australia. As you know, Australia is quite a far place from our motherland, Igbo. So we all came here mostly as, I would say, economic migrants, but we equally find it that it's important for all of us to come together, to be together, and to form a union, to foster both our tradition, be there for each other, and make sure that our culture transcends between us, after us, and we can hand it over to our children. So that's the whole idea of the Igbo Association of Western Australia. So we're here to promote our Igbo culture. We're here to foster unity. We're here to make sure that our language does not die. Wow. So that is much I would say about the association. And we've been here for over a decade. It's quite registered. And the whole of Western Australia knows that we exist because we make things happen.
Well, that's really beautiful to hear. I mean, over a decade, that's a long time. And you said two very key things, and I think I want us to piggyback off of what you've said. You said the language does not die. You mentioned something about the culture. So tell us about the language, you know, how is it being fostered, especially the children, because I know for the most part, most of the people in the community probably were in Nigeria before they migrated. So they definitely know one or two things about the language. But, you know, for the children that were born there, you know, it's going to be a bit difficult, you know, because of the community. You know, they are with other children that are Australians and, you know, they do not speak. Igbo is not their official language. You know, even in Nigeria, Igbo is not the official language. So how is the language being preserved? That's one. And I think after that, we also want to talk about the New Yam Festival in line of culture. But let's talk about the language first.
It's a part of our culture as Igbo is our language. And we found out that Igbo language is a threatened language all over the world, especially some in the Western world where people migrate. Even in Nigeria, you have some people who live in Lagos, their children cannot speak Igbo. So we came together as stakeholders to make sure that we start an Igbo language school, which the government is even assisting us to do that. So we have a principal and we have teachers. And we teach our children Igbo language. And we start from the basics. And I can tell you what these children do, you won't believe it. That some of them really speak Igbo well, some are learning. And equally, the language school fosters for some adults who cannot speak Igbo very well. So we're solving two problems, both in the adult side and in the children. Recently, Asusu Igbo now is recognized as a language in Australia people now use as in a point system to get permanent residence. So you can either speak English or speak Igbo. So that's to show you how much we have tried to entrench Asusu in Australia to be recognized in Australia. Australia knows that Igbo is a language spoken by an ethnic group in Australia. So that is how much we have gone to make sure it does not die. We use locations to teach Igbo. We have curriculum. The curriculum may coincide with curriculum when in Nigeria to make sure that no more or our children we know how to speak Igbo. So that at the end of the day, because,
let me just jump in.
Because
Let me just jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you're still in line with your thoughts, still in line with what you're saying. Now, we understand that your association had an impressive New Yam festival. It was amazing. We saw all the videos and the photos, very impressive. But we want to look at the recurring way that Igbo cultural heritage is propagated in Western Australia. Beyond the annual New Yam festival, how is Igbo culture propagated on a daily basis over there in Western Australia? Just give us more clarity, still within your line of thought, the basic ways that this culture is propagated.
Well, like it's like when Chinua said that, look, I mean, that men gather, not because they don't have food in their homes, but because men need to gather, What we try to do is that we have different groups. We have Igbo youths, we have the Men Association. So what we try to do is to make sure that we have as much as possible, so that when we catch up, we're able to talk about things. Because right from where we're coming from, brotherhood, it's not about brotherhood. So we try to do that. Now, we have men dance groups. In the youth, we make sure they meet. And when they go out, what do? They try to look at aspects of Igbo that can bring all of us together. So just give me a second.
Oh, I think it's still trying to refresh it, but I think it's something really commendable, Favor, that this is happening. I mean, I never would have thought that we'll be able to cross over all the way to Australia and even find that Igbos are doing a lot in Western Australia. Speaking to Joshua yesterday, who is currently, over in Germany, he said that there are so many Igbos who run thriving pharmaceutical companies right there in Australia, and even spare parts. So a lot of Igbo people are over there doing their businesses, and they actually supply a lot of those products back here to the Southeast. So, you don't know what you don't know until you know what you don't know. That's the line for that.
I think one of the things that's always really mind-boggling for me is the fact that you're still, and I'm going to use Mr. Joshua as an example, you're still able to import what it is that you do here and still do it well. In the sense for Mr. Joshua, tourism, hikers trail, and I still see that he still goes on hikes there. He still able to build a community there, and that's really beautiful, because for some people, what they do here in Nigeria, when they want to migrate, they're like, let them find something else to do, which is good. But the fact that you can really carry what it is you're doing here and be able to do it, like you said, we have people that have big pharmaceutical companies there as well, and then they still importing it, or rather exporting it back to Nigeria, having that same connections and all of that. Most times when you hear of these things, it's just really a location problem, because you still have our people doing amazing where they are.
All right, Dr. Charles, thank you for joining us again. Now, what Favor has just said has made me wonder about, replicating culture and tradition over there. It's almost like having let's say, a Chinese community in a state in the Southeast. So what really inspired you to take on this position as president? What inspired you to want to replicate the Igbo cultural traditions and heritage all the way over there in Western Australia? Like I rightly said during the introduction, such a far location. What made you want to imbibe this Igbo culture and tradition over there in Australia?
Okay, what made me come on board in this administrative position is to, one, foster the vision of the founding fathers. Secondly, is to look at it from a point that we must exist in a society. And if we must exist in a society, we need to be united. And we need to be seen as a group, not as an individual. Like you mentioned, the Chinese, the way they operate, they can come in, and the Indians, they come into Nigeria, they have their Indian market. They have their Indian businesses. The same thing with the Chinese. So they move as a group, and that is what we have decided to do as Igbo in Western Australia. Let us come in as a group. People will recognize us as a group. We can help each other as a group. And in that way, we'll foster unity among ourselves. In that way, we'll make sure that we protect ourselves. Like, if an Igbo man comes in, there are people to mentor him or her to look at things about the country and look at things that you need to do, in terms of survival. If you need help, in all legal way, So that is what we have decided, the structure that we're putting forward. And two, for our children, whether we like it or not, too, your skin is black. In a white community, you'll easily be picked up. However, if we have our children knowing the how we live, they will be equally be there to protect their culture and their heritage. So that is our vision here. And in terms of our culture, we teach our dance groups. We make sure that those things that we do back home, we bring it back here in Australia. Because a lot of people are born here, they might not go back home, find out to go back and live. But let us make sure that we propagate our culture here. So that is the main vision and reason for taking up the mantle of leadership.
Okay.
And in my administration, we're trying our best to impact on the youth too.
I'm sure you are doing just that. Now, making a pot of egusi over there is definitely different from trying to make a pot of egusi down here. There's always that key ingredient that is missing that makes the taste very different. It doesn't taste the same as when you make it here. So it makes me ask, being or propagating the Igbo culture in a diaspora setting, definitely it's not the same climate, it's not even the same temperature. And that means that definitely there are challenges. Can you tell us about some of these challenges operating within this foreign climate?
Okay, I might surprise you that if you taste a pot of egusi soup, it might be the same thing that you taste in Nigeria.
Are you
because
sure
we have
because
we have Onubu here that we try and grow. So don't worry about that. But I do appreciate your question. What we have to understand is time is our problem. Because here everybody is serious, everybody is working. People wake up at 5 and then they are moving from one job to another. So you find out time is problem. Location. You're in an environment, you're trying to pay your bills, so time is of essence. But it's amidst that, what we try to do is that we try and meet once or twice a month, and people come around that time. So whatever you're doing, no matter where you are, that time, you have to provide it for the association. However, we equally have different groups, like the youth and all that. They try and meet in certain times of the week or of the month. So that helps to foster that communality. It fosters that unity. It makes us do our things together. So that is what the major challenge here. And then, yes, I agree with you. There are some of our food that we can't get here, but we have to probably manage. And then some of us who are married to foreigners who are not in the Igbo. So what we try to do is we try to make sure we arrange some cooking classes for them so that we can teach them about our food and while teaching them our food, we incorporate some of our culture during some of these classes. So those are some of the ways that we're trying to make sure that we foster our heritage over here.
Okay, I want to ask, how do we, what's the connection with, the community and the community back home? We have some very sorry cases of when some of our brothers leave Nigeria, leave the community, we can even bring it back to Nigeria. You leave the East where you are, and you don't come back. You don't, when you go to Lagos or Abuja or any other place that's not the East, you don't come back home. We're not building houses, we're not making investments. And this a particular time in Nigeria, there is a strong call for us to continue to invest in the Southeast, to take our businesses to the Southeast, to continue to invest in the Southeast. But now when we are even out of, the country completely, what's the relationship like, with the Igbos in Western Australia? What's the relationship like with them, with the community, and of course the community that is in the Southeast here?
Okay. The basic thing there is about the media and fear. I'll take an example for building houses and doing businesses. With some of the unrest back home, they will tell you, people are being kidnapped and all that. But the question is that if you look at kidnap and all that with people dying from health diseases, you find out that health is even more. So what we try to do, a lot of us have got investments too back home. Some of us have built houses back home. So what we do is that we create the awareness. Each time we meet, we talk about, look, you have to go home. And I can tell you that in the past 5 years, we have had more Igbos from Western Australia going home to build houses and do things back home. And when they come back, oh, I went home, I enjoyed it so much. And you find out that they now keep coming home. So we have broken that jinx because some of us have been here for 20 something years. And because they can see that, Charles has gone home, he has done this, he goes to Nigeria every year, you find out that they will come. Sometimes even they come with you or they come with me to see for themselves before they bring their family. So we are beginning to break that jinx. And we have a lot of our people here who do import and export. And they take like second-hand goods here, machines, solar panels, they take them back to Nigeria. And some people still export food here. So I think we're beginning to see that bi-directional flow of investments from here back to Nigeria and from Nigeria back here. But again, we need that enabling environment back home to make sure that you bring in big investors, like some of the white people here who will be interested to come and invest back home so that they can come in and have that enabling environment. So at the end of the day, we can all benefit from both sides.
Okay, now can you tell us very briefly, specific ways that the Igbo community in Western Australia contributes to the Southeast economy? Those specific things, because we learned from Mr. Joshua that we have the spare parts, we have pharmaceuticals. Can you tell us about this in detail, how we actually benefit from the Igbo community in Western Australia?
All right, so in a couple of ways. First of all, we have some of us here who are businessmen, and they have links in Nigeria, and we have one or two prominent Igbo men who come here to import pharmaceuticals. And these people are not, some of them are not, most of them are not citizens. So they try and link up with some people here. And what we do is that we can verify and say, look, this person you can do business with, this person you cannot do business with. Now, this person has got this experience here, and they team up. And we've seen these businesses grow. And they move products from here to Nigeria and vice versa. And the same thing with motor parts. You know, it was a big hub, and it's still a big hub. They come here, they get motor parts, second-hand motor parts, and they go to Nigeria. And we've seen it flourish. All right. And then, what the association does is that when some of these people come here, they will become a conduit of verification of the people they do business with. And we try to make sure too that we have those enabling environments for them. Yeah, so that's what we try to create.
All right, great. On a final note, I mean, we're out of time. I wish we could continue speaking about this because there's so much that we still need to know. What does the Igbo community in Western Australia think about the situation down east? Is the Igbo community impressed with the activities of the governors? Is it impressed with how things are progressing? Or does it still feel that there's still much left to be desired?
We know the situation in Nigeria. I'm not a politician, but I will say this, and I say this everywhere we go. And we discuss about Nigeria. The truth of the matter is that every woman wants to go back home. That's the truth of the matter. But you know, when people stay overseas, they're here, like I said, economic migrants. So they look at their money they make, and most of those monies goes back home. In terms of our governors, we've seen the political situation in Nigeria. Every day you open up the news, it's all about embezzlement. Like I said, I'm not a politician. But what we want is we want our politicians to make sure that Igbo, Ali Igbo, is secure. So that even when we bring our investments are safe. Security is our biggest issue, to make sure that the place is secure. So that awareness, when we go, we say, look, you can bring your business back home. Then secondly, to make sure too that businesses, registering businesses, doing businesses will be more simple, because a lot of us are more digitalized. So that when we come home, some of the things that we see here, we can actually go back home and do it. Like, I'm impressed with my state government. I'm from Abia State, and he's been doing a wonderful job. in Abia State. And so I'm not saying one governor is better than the other, but I think it's important that our governors understand that they have a service to the people, both people not in Nigeria and people outside. Because look, at the end of the day, we can actually bring in a lot of foreign exchange and make sure that Igbo land, the whole of Ali Igbo, transforms. And that's the major thing that we want our politicians to do for us, because they represent the people, not themselves.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, sir. It was truly a pleasure having you, and we'll definitely continue to water this connection. We'll cross over to you from time to time, and good looking out for the event, the New Yam Festival. It was amazing. Unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties, we can't have the footage up on screen right now. But if you want to see how the New Yam Festival went in Australia, do also check us out on social media. This is to our audience. Check us out on social media, on X, at Afia TV Official, and you'll get all the, like they call it, JPEGs and videos of the New Yam Festival. Thank you once again, Dr. Charles Meribole, Chairman, Igbo Association of Western Australia. It was a pleasure having you on, sir. Thank you.
And thank you for having me.